Who else is willing to feed your obsession with the topic of hair loss than this guy right here? And it's so easy to say, but look, for a guy who's nearly 40, you still have most of your hair. Why do you keep doing these videos? Exactly, because most of my viewers aren't actually losing their hair. Either it's the fear of losing hair loss that is worse than the actual hair loss itself, because you can't really know until you're 35 really where you stand. Let's see what's going on in news, and by news I mean the comment section of my videos. How about this one from DF Beats on a video I made called Men with Shaved Bald Head and Beard versus Men with Long Hair. Here's the comment, quote, "I read a reaction on one of your videos and he made quite an interesting point. He said something about that some people see their hairline way worse than it actually is due to their head shape, especially people with wider foreheads than the rest of their face, Leonardo DiCaprio for example, or people with smaller heads. How do you think about this?" End quote. So yes, let me go ahead and dismiss one thing immediately. Something I definitely don't believe in is that a man can pull off having a shaved head if he's balding if he has a good head shape. I don't really buy so much into that, because I can name so many examples of guys who look good and are known as very attractive men who have no hair, like Vin Diesel or Jason Statham, and then somebody's like, it's just because of his head shape. I don't buy into that. I think the moment you shave your head, you're sending a signal of confidence that supersedes whatever kind of head shape you have. I think it's more about that symbol of I am confident, or at least no one can tell that I'm faking the moment you shave your head. But I think what can be relevant is when you aren't actually bald yet, but the shape of your forehead can actually make your changing hairline seem worse than it actually is. And I think that's something that's not talked about enough on this channel, so we should talk about it. Because absolutely, your forehead can technically be a separate issue from your actual hairline. Granted, there's quite a Venn diagram, there's an overlap there, but ultimately it makes a difference. And I have been very open, talking about on this channel about how part of my ways to know if you're going to go bald is if you have a small forehead. I've mentioned that before. Typically, if you have a small forehead and you've got hair growing ultimately on your forehead, is what I would say, then you're less likely to have then you could still have diffuse thinning, but at least as far as a receding hairline, typically if you're starting this low, but it's interesting because when you look at somebody's head, it's like at some point it starts kind of rounding up, but some people literally have hair growing on their forehead, like on their head, so I think that definitely can make a difference. And I think too there can be deceptive forms of hair loss. What if a man just has a severe receding temple but everything's straight up here? Well, from the sides, like, oh wow, so I guess I never really noticed he's got a receding hairline. But as long as you're looking at him this way, when it wouldn't tell how much space you have between your eyebrows and your hairline, how much space you have from the highest point of your hairline to we can look at all these things, and ultimately knowing that head shape and forehead size and how low your hairline is to begin with, all of those are factors in how noticeable your hairline is going to be. So yeah, I think that's a very good point. That you could have, in theory, you could have a guy who's Norwood 2.5, which a lot of people say that I am. But if I had a lower forehead to begin with, maybe this wouldn't matter as much. But I do have a pretty tall forehead, and I guess I've always known that or not cared or whatever. But that was confirmed by viewers on my other channel, Family Friendly Daddy Blog, which is a channel mainly focusing on ethnicity and DNA test results, and they were pointing that out, saying that is pointing out the German DNA, French and German. That's more of, okay, I didn't know that. So yeah, this is something we're not talking enough about, but now we are. Now we can have a conversation that ultimately despite whatever Norwood you say you are, the actual shape of your head and how low your forehead is going to play into that too. Not all foreheads are created equal. Not all hairlines are perfectly at the right part of your head, so that can make a Norwood situation seem worse than it is. But even then, it can be deceptive because, man, once you start having thinning hair, a Norwood status doesn't really mean anything. Your comments belong right here.